Hi, I'm Jonathan Rogers, Game Director on Path of Exile 2. We're back again with another patch note preview, this time for 053. In 050 we made a huge number of changes to the endgame leagues, with a significantly better experience introducing you to each league with a questline. While the questlines are pretty successful, some leagues needed a bit more attention after the questline. The goal with this patch is that no matter which type of content you're a fan of, it's worth investing into. An example of this is the rewards of the Abyss Pinnacle boss, the Vessel of Coolamark. The Grip of Coolamark unique ring has some pretty chase outcomes, but most weren't hitting the mark. We've done a full pass on the modifiers available from this ring, disabling some of the lesser used ones, adding some new ones, and merging a lot of them together. He will now also always drop an Ancient Desecration currency, if you're able to defeat him at full strength. In the future, we'll be adding additional unique items to this boss because he just simply doesn't have that many. In the Abyssal Depths, we've fixed a bug which caused Abyssal rares to sometimes be missing from the area, but we're also making it so that the final large Abyssal Trove in the Abyssal Depths will now always drop desecrated currency. Between the improvements to the Abyssal Depths and the increased rewards from the Vessel of Coolamark, Abyss should feel a lot more rewarding now. Moving on to Breach. While we don't really have an issue with the Hive Fortresses while you're progressing through the questline, they are pretty underwhelming at high levels when you want to farm them, so we've made a number of changes to improve them. Firstly, Breach biomes are now much bigger, meaning you have more hives for each Breachstone. And to make those larger biomes even more enticing, we're improving the modifiers added when using multiple Breachstones to reveal them. Some of these also add new abilities to Aelith while fighting Hive Fortresses, like this one called Nemesis, which simply spawns rare monsters. We also have some further improvements coming to Hives as well in 054 next week, with even more Aelith skills and improving Breach tablets to be able to better boost Hives. Delirium is also a big focus of our changes coming in this patch. We've fixed a number of mechanics that were not working as intended, and this league should feel much better now. To start with, we fixed a bug where none of the monsters that were spawned by the special shards on the Delirium bar were able to be magic or rare. This even included the purple mirror shards. Purple mirror shards were intended to add a lot of extra value by spawning very powerful but very rewarding elite monsters, so you can immediately see the problem when these were never able to be a higher rarity. Given that these monsters are actually some of the highest value monsters in the game, being rare they're going to be quite terrifying, but they'll drop a lot of loot in kind. Another issue we found is that it was intended that if you pop multiple purple mirror shards, you get even more elite monsters. Currently this just did nothing, but now it will add significantly more elites to your map. And then the other really bad bug is that when doing a Grand Mirror, any maps open between 150% and 200% Delirious would not spawn any Delirium monsters, or any mirror shards to spawn packs. So at the highest juicing levels, the league actually got worse. These fixes resulted in Delirium being much harder, with many more monsters. So even though we just nerfed its difficulty in 052, we actually need to do so again, but only in the early phases of endgame this time. To do that, we've halved all the scaling Delirium applies to monsters, but each tablet after the first will add additional scaling back to the monsters, meaning that at 3 Delirium tablets, they scale the same as before. Overall, these changes mean that Delirium is a much better league, with better combat, better rewards, and more ability to scale the difficulty and rewards into the late endgame. But that's not all we changed. Simulacrums were also not scaling well into the endgame either, so we wanted to address those too. Previously, Simulacrums started at 0% Deliriousness. They now begin at 100% and ramp all the way up to 200% over the course of the run. We've also decided to remove the old wave modifiers. These didn't actually make anything more rewarding, just made things more difficult. Instead of that, we've added a new mechanic to Simulacrums that keeps you in control. After completing each boss room, you can now make an optional choice between 3 mirror shards. One will add bosses to all subsequent rooms, one will add modifiers to the area that make it harder and more rewarding, and one will add more monsters, including the elite ones. You might want to just stack bosses, or maybe you want to increase the density, or if you're finding it too difficult, select none. It's your call. Next, Expedition. Grand Expeditions had a lot of reward potential in the hands of highly optimized players, but they weren't particularly rewarding for the average player. The way that Grand Expeditions are being played at the top end involves entering the area, assessing all the remnants, and if there are no good ones, then immediately leaving and moving on. We want to make it so that every Grand Expedition is worth spending time on, so we've made a lot of improvements here. Firstly, the chests. When you entered a Grand Expedition before, what you saw was a bunch of mostly useless armor and weapon chests. Now, it's treasure. Take a look at this difference. There are a ton of other valuable chests dropping much cooler rewards. But even the weapon and armor chests are much better. Notice how the icons are golden now? This is because they're much rarer but guarantee an exceptional base type. So the chests are way more valuable, but we wanted to make the monsters more valuable too. To do this, each rune which is passed on by each remnant now applies significantly more rarity bonuses to the monsters. Combined with our third change, which is adding significantly more remnants, you can get some very rewarding encounters just by slaying enemies, if you can overcome the challenge. At the same time, we thought the length of the encounter was too long, so I've reduced the number of explosives by 25%. Overall, it should be more rewarding and take less time to do. Now, another feedback we've had is players not wanting to use rune-forged armors at endgame due to having to sacrifice too much of their other defenses. To address that, we've reduced the amount of armor, evasion, and energy shield lost by armors when rune-forging them in endgame. Finally, let's talk about the temple. Previously, there was an Atlas passive that caused temple rewards to appear in ordinary areas. While it was powerful, it effectively undermined the rewards of the entire temple building mechanic, meaning that not many people were really running them. So we're replacing it with something much more interesting. Now, after allocating the node, activating a Vaal beacon corrupts a rare or unique enemy in the area, modifying them unpredictably. This can create a variety of outcomes. A monster might gain additional modifiers, become significantly more dangerous, or receive valuable reward enhancements. The result is a mechanic that creates memorable moments while leaning much more heavily into the themes of corruption and risk that define the Vaal. So those are the major endgame changes coming in 053. The late endgame should feel more rewarding for many of the weaker mechanics. We still have a ton more changes coming up for 054, so stay tuned. Thanks for playing, and see you in Wraeclast.